You want to get back to eco.
Exactly. So we'll get into that. But
little baby boy with the horns.
With his horns. With his adorable
horns. Who doesn't love horns?
I love horns. Who doesn't love horns?
Who doesn't love horns? You know who else loves horns?
Who's that?
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Pixel It. My name is Kevin. Alongside with me is Phil.
I heard the pause in your voice. And when you're like, am I going to do it here? Am I going to do it here?
And then I did it. And then I was like,
and then you did it.
I was seeing how pregnant I can make that pause.
It was a pretty pregnant pause. If it was more pregnant, the GOP would be trying to control it. Let's get started, baby.
Let's get right into it.
Let's do this.
We're into it.
Wasting no time
at all. We're back, baby, and we're talking about Eco, the Castle in the Mist, and look at that. You got a nice little copy there.
I found it used, and it's in really good shape, and
yeah. That's awesome.
I love me a nice paperback.
I do like a good paperback. I did not try to buy it used because it's out of print, right? I believe it's out of print.
Yes, and actually...
which is unfortunate. I will say, is extremely unfortunate for this book, that there is no current print runs of it.
It is a shame.
But, what can you do? I have it here on my little Kindle device.
There you go. That counts.
My ad-supported Kindle device, which... feeds me some sort of romance novel every time I
was about to say, what was the weird advertisement that it opened up to this time?
I'm gonna lock it and just see what it. No, it's nothing special. It's just a notification that there's ebooks are on sale.
Baby.
Like 80% off on ebooks right now.
Tap into those savings, Kevin. Come on. Come on, man.
Come on.
I think you're missing out on the real message here. Savings are extraordinary.
Savings right now are extraordinary. You know what else is extraordinary? Is what happened last episode, and what happened in Eco in episode 1? What do we do?
In Eco, we started out. We learned a lot. Actually, we started.
It's a dense book.
It's a pretty dense book. I mean to say, the mythology, world building, and everything like that here is maybe some of the densest we've dealt with. So right off the bat, we are introduced to the town elder, a little town in the middle of this mythical fantasy world that we live in. We learn about the sacrifice and how in this area, every now and then, a little boy. Is it always a little boy? Did they specify?
I think it could be a boy or a girl.
Okay. So
it doesn't really specify a gender,
right?
On the sacrifice.
Right. Well, a child will every now and then be born with horns, and the child will grow up faster and smarter and stronger than all the other kids. And it is the elder's job to raise the child as his own, and to, at the right time, take the child to the castle in the mist, this vague, spooky castle in the distance that's filled with quiet, whispering meaning. Ooh. And they leave the child there, as far as they're concerned, to basically become one of the blocks in the castle. And they call the child a sacrifice, but you get the impression that they don't really think the kid gets killed or anything like that. The kid's just kind of reabsorbed, and it basically it appeases the castle. They worry about the darkness, the god of darkness, and everything like that, and making that god unhappy. And this keeps everything on an even keel. We learn about the elder, his wife, and her weird brother, and we meet Toto, Iko's friend. Iko at this point is being kept in a cave while they prepare to take him to be sacrificed. And his buddy Toto decides we're gonna go together. Runs off. Oops! The place is filled with people who have been turned to stone. He meets a terrifying lady face that is not a
giant
euphemism.
face, giant face floating above the city. Terrifying.
Yeah, and the face turns his horse to stone. He manages to escape with the help. Just with this tome, this relic of a book, the only thing in the area that wasn't also turned to stone. He brings it back to the elder, who takes it from him, thus allowing the boy to be turned into stone. Good job, elder. What the fuck?
Really winning. Really winning hearts and
shit.
minds there, Elder. But Elder takes the book and be like, well, nobody else saw that. So
right. Yeah. No one else was there. So whatever. He's fine. And he finds that it's a book of the Lord of Light, the God of Light, this tome, this ancient relic. And he's flipping through it and getting and realizes that this sacrifice is going to be different, that this time the sacrifice might be the sacrifice to end all sacrifices. And he shuts down his wife, who has been making the mark, which is kind of a poncho the kids all wear that has a holy symbol on it. And he says, "Now make this one instead." And it's basically the same, but kind of different.
But different.
Yeah, exactly. And he starts ordering everyone in the town around. He's like, post a guard, kids dance and sing in the streets. He literally says, we need all the children to be dancing and singing. This place is very North Korea. Let me put it that way. Like, you over there, dance and sing. You make funny faces into the fountain. You
light some fires.
Right. It's that kind of situation. And then the priest from the city, like the nearby urban area, comes with a couple of guards and takes Iko and basically we get the opening cutscene to the video game Iko, and this is after like 100 pages of backstory and everything like that. And Iko, long story short, is plopped into the castle and left alone. He makes some friends, kind of some friends with one of the guards who's nice to him. Yep. And in the castle, he finds a mysterious woman or girl who is super beautiful, and he frees her from a bird cage, basically, that she's hiding in. We get a lot of little visions of different things. Like he has a vision of the bird cage and it's filled with darkness before, but when he gets there, it's actually just this young lady, and he busts her out. And then saves her several times from dark spirits that are costing them. Bad communication between Iko and the girl. He can't understand her. She kind of vaguely understands him. And we get little weird incidents, like we see figures and specters in the castle. And there's a lot of suggestion that these dark specters are basically the ghosts of the old sacrifices, and they're kind of offended that he fights them off when he does. Yeah, they expect him to be nice. You almost kind of feel sorry for them. They're just like, dude, why are you being mean to us? Like they literally say that at one point. Like, why are you being a jerk?
Yeah, that's actually where we pick it up. Is that the specters, or the shades, as they're eventually called, begin talking to him, and they're like basically like, hey, what's the deal here? You're supposed to be on our side. You're one of us. Just let us take the girl. And everything will be fine. And while he's fighting them, and this is just one of the myriad of rooms that they've been going through. This is chapter 2.6.
Yes.
While he's fighting them, he has
good method. 2.6.
He has another vision of what happens if the girl is taken through the hole, and basically a ring of light will shoot out. It will bursts the shades, but it'll also turn Eco to stone. So he now has a survival reason to not let her get pulled down, because it will probably kill him if if something happens.
If he didn't need more any motivation in the past, he's definitely got some now. So
yeah, exactly. And then we're in 2.7, and he's pulls her out. He's fighting these creatures, and they continue on, and they find a trolley. And the trolley is it's an interesting little thing, because it's almost like an amusement park ride, like insertion. And we get more backstory on why the trolley is there to begin with later in the book. But he finds this trolley. He's like, all right, well, if any of these shades come up on me while we're riding on the trolley, they're going to get a whacking, because I'm going to be moving fast. I'm moving fast.
I'm going to clothesline some ghosts. Get ready.
So he starts the trolley, and the girl takes his hand, and he has another vision, and he sees the girl as like a little child, as like a 6-year-old, and she starts talking. She's like talking on and on about, how fun this is with her father. She's looking at him, and she's like, oh, daddy, blah, blah, blah. This is the best, et cetera, et cetera. Like, so every time he gets a vision from her, it seems like it's a memory. He's pulling back some sort of memory from her. So the trolley ends in another room with a giant chandelier, and this is actually a really cool scene. So there's this wooden bridge across the room, and he can see down through the floor that there is another floor at the bottom, but there's actually no way to get down there without like jumping or what have you. So he's trying to figure things out. He's pulling the girl along, and the girl eventually kind of like points up at the chandelier, and he's like, all right, fine, I'll check the chandelier out. And he goes up, and he gets on top of the railing of the chandelier, and he starts having another vision. And he sees people floating in the air, and then he realizes that they're not floating, that it's like dozens of people who have been hung and killed. Yeah. From the seal. It's like almost like a jump scare within the book, where he realizes he's seeing.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking. It is really unnervingly spooky, and it comes out of fucking nowhere.
He sees all these bodies hanging, and the blood is dripping off of them, and like this is in place of the candles that would be. Yeah. He's seeing bodies and people just like hanging there. And then at one point he sees the knight that he saw the statue of earlier walking across the room, the one with the horns like him. Yeah. And he calls out to the knight, but the knight doesn't respond to him. And then suddenly he's like flashed back to reality. He's like, okay, it was another vision. But he kind of loses his balance, and he falls on top of the chandelier. Yeah. And the chandelier. Right before this, he had noticed that a lot of the fittings on the ceiling had been kind of rusted and warped and whatever. So him falling onto the chandelier was just enough of a nudge to cause the chandelier to basically break free from the ceiling, fall down. It hits the wooden bridge in the center of the room and kind of causes the bridge to become a ramp down to the next floor.
Very convenient.
Very convenient. It's a good moment, but I really love the moment of them seeing the bodies hanging from the roof. I mean, she didn't, but yeah, he did. So yeah, they. During this, right before this scene, he had kind of had an interaction with her where he was like kind of accusing, he was like talking to her where he wanted to figure out who she was, because every time he was taking her hand or what have you, like he was having a vision. So he has this moment where he has like a little bit of a freak out on her, like, who are you? What's going on here? And of course she doesn't answer because she doesn't know, how to do that. They continue on. They can go down the ramp now, and they are able to basically kind of get out of the interior and onto the lawn, so to speak. And we're in 2.8 now. So they're running through the courtyard, and they see Iko sees the gate to leave, and he's like, we're going to do it. Yes, this is it. And then the girl drops to her knees and starts screaming. And it looks like she is being attacked by something invisible.
Yeah. That was another really unnerving moment.
It was, because she's just clawing at her face.
Yeah.
And screaming, and you don't see anything. Eventually what happens is there's these like black wisps start to form, and eventually they take the shape of a woman dressed in black. And the way she's described really reminded me of like Angelina Jolie as Maleficent.
Totally. Yeah. That kind of like dark fairy, grandiose kind of, yeah, absolutely.
Very gaunt with the high cheekbones and all that stuff.
Yeah, very severe.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was, where my head was with that.
Totally.
So this is the villain, so to speak, of the story, as far as we know so far.
Yeah, so far.
She's the queen. She's the queen, the master of the castle, and she is the girl, Yorda. She's Yorda's mother. And basically Iko is like, no, I'm going to get her out of here. The queen responds to this by just ragdolling Iko around the courtyard, like just absolutely demolishing him several times in a row.
Yeah. Just wrecking this kid's shit.
Just fucking this kid's shit up. I think 3 times she throws him across the courtyard, and he is pretty messed up. And then the queen leaves, and she's like, "You can leave, Iko. You can get the hell out of here, but Yorda has to stay." Mm-hmm. And at that point, Iko's like, "No, I'm gonna get her out." The queen, disappears. Like, or Iko's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna listen to her." And then he starts like, the mark starts glowing. He starts healing, and that's like, this is the end of chapter 2, and chapter 3 basically jumps to a dramatic shift in point of view in the story.
Yes.
We're now looking at everything from Yorda's point of view. Mm-hmm. And chapter 3.1 does a lot of interesting stuff with talking about Yorda and the passage of time, and how that time has stopped for her and for the castle. And not only has time stopped, her ability to mark and understand the passage of time has also stopped. So she has she has trouble understanding when things are real and when things are dreams. And there's a moment in early on in chapter 3 where she's like, she thinks that she sees one of the sacrifices, and then the sacrifice gets killed, right? It's like another sacrifice, probably the same, did the same thing as Iko, got out of the sarcophagus or whatever, and like started walking up to her, but then it got killed. Yeah. And then she's like, But then there was another boy, and he kept coming up the stairway, and it's like, is he the same as before? I don't know, but he's coming and he's talking to me. Is this a dream? She's
right.
She can't really tell what's real and what's not.
Yeah. It's a very disorienting moment in the book for a lot of reasons. First off, just the sudden shift in character and tone and everything like that, and then the fact that she is also every bit as disoriented as we probably
as
are.
The reader is. Yeah. So we get kind of a recap, basically everything that happened in chapter 2. We get a brief accelerated recap of it from Yorda's point of view, where she's like, the boy, sometimes he touches my hand and then stares off into the distance, and then suddenly he's present again. So that's like every time he's having a vision or whatever, right. She's just like, what are you staring at?
It made me think of Scrubs. The main character in Scrubs it's famous for him having these weird little fantasies. And in later seasons, they actually address it, that when he's having his weird little fantasy about something somebody said, everyone can watch him just like stare off into space, as in real time he has this strange fantasy about being like a cop or a lawyer or something like that, or Quail Man, and just like it made me think of that immediately. It's like,
that's amazing.
You there?
You there, buddy? You there, buddy?
Come on, bud.
But yeah, she is pretty sure that the rescue, though, is a dream. It's something that she is manifesting out of her own hope of sometime getting out of the cage at some point. She also makes notice that, like, as they are going through the castle and things are starting to fall apart a little bit, that's because she has left the cage, and that things like time is starting to move again in the castle. Bridges are starting to fall, walls are starting to crumble, et cetera, et cetera. So she's like making these little connections.
And this is the only time she's ever been able to leave the cage.
Right. Yeah. In her recent existence. So we get up to, in 3.2, we get through everything up to the interaction with her mother. And it's at that point, her memories, basically, her mother addressing her by her name, like everything starts to come flooding back for her.
Yeah.
Her like entire life starts to come back into focus. And one of my favorite lines at the beginning of 3.3 is time lurches forward. Like suddenly it's like things are starting to move again. And this is the beginning of a part of the book. And you were saying before the show that you were like, the momentum, you were a little worried about the momentum of the book.
Yes. I have really been enjoying this book, as our last episode would make very clear. I think this section of the book was where I started to get a little nervous, simply because this entire chapter, which amounts to like 150 pages, it's not these chapters are very long, follows Yorba and her background. It's basically a heavily extended flashback to Yorba and her, youth, and her mother and her father and all that stuff you get in. And the thing is that it's all very, very interesting. It's all very cool. And we're going to get into that, obviously. And it's well written because Miyuki Mizabe and Alexander Smith they work brilliantly together, to the point that I've noticed that he's translated other stuff of hers, and it's like, well, I might want to check that out, right? Because they do a wonderful job together. But I've been so invested in Iko and his story and everything that brought him to the Castle in the Mist that an entire 140, 50 pages or so of an extended flashback, it really it kind of bummed me out. Not to put too fine a points on it. I was like,
Sure.
it's very good. I was like, I want more Eco. It's going to be a minute till we get back.
Yeah,
to
we're not gonna get back to him. Like, that was actually literally his last appearance. We're not talking about him for the rest of the episode.
Right.
Of this episode.
Right. Exactly.
The titular main character is on pause for a little bit.
for a good amount of time. If you're here simply for Eco, and that is
for
all,
our best boy with horns, he is
we'll
not.
see you next week.
We'll see you next week on that.
Because we're not going to talk about him for a little while. we're gonna get some other cool shit, but it ain't gonna be Eco. So, and I came around to it ultimately, but it was jarring. That's all. It was jarring.
So, all right, we're in 3.3, and we're about to basically do kind of a two. I think it's appropriate to say this is 2 layers of a flashback. All right. So we start 3.3 with, quote unquote, let's just call it, for Yorda's storyline, for her storyline, it's present day.
Yeah.
It is the beginning of the tournament, of this tournament where basically all these warriors from all over the world come and they fight in a tournament at the Castle in the Mist. The castle is full of people. Now it is back in the day. And that's the thing is, for as long, the sacrifice has been going on for a long ass time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to think that we're now in a flashback with Yorda. She's 16 in the main storyline. We're now in her a distant memory of hers. She's still 16 because time froze for her. But this is like gotta be at least 1,000 years prior or something like that.
Yeah, it's the atmosphere shifts in a big damn way where it's like suddenly it's, it does feel like we're not talking about like a few years back, because this is this abandoned place, and based on the lore we've learned in the first couple of parts of the book, it's been that way for a long time. So the notion of it being filled with cheering people and, warriors from all over the world. Yeah, this is another time.
It's huge. It's another time, another place. And it's a foreign time.
Mm-hmm.
It is a time that has been forgotten by the characters in present day. Like, they don't even, that's the thing. That's the wild thing, is that there is no talk of the Castle in the Mist being the center of a powerful nation at any point, or who the master of the castle, like all this stuff about the castle, other than it's terrifying. That's the only lasting knowledge. It's terrifying and demands sacrifice. Those are the only 2 lasting bits of knowledge left over from the Castle in the Mist.
Yeah. It's really cool because it's one of those things that, if you go to Europe or, countries that have, those levels of relics everywhere and that sort of thing, you just see them as this almost kind of a part of the backdrop. It's just part of the countryside in a way. And it's real easy. It could be spooky. It could be majestic. It could be a lot of things, but it's almost never, your instinct is almost never, oh, that used to be a thriving, bustling place where people lived and worked and loved. And, and this illustrates, that sort of thing really well. It's very, very cool. This castle just very much comes alive. It's cool.
Yeah. So basically Yorda is watching the people, these warriors arrive, and she's really bummed out about it. And we get the background on why that is, and it jumps back another 10 days. So it's like a couple weeks earlier from that point of view. Yorda had made this whole plan with her handmaiden to just like escape the castle and go down to the city and just be out and in the world. And because she in her entire life has never left the castle. So her handmaiden's like, listen, and I love the fact that they keep calling the handmaidens like it's her lover. The handmaiden's lover is one of the I love the fact that the word lover was used.
It's such an old world term. It's so
the handmaiden lover. And her lover.
Her lover. You take a lover.
So the handmaiden and her lover, they help Yorda like kind of escape out into the main like courtyard of the castle without being seen, and she's walking out onto the bridge of the castle and she's like, yeah, I got this. And then suddenly her mom starts like telepathically talking to her while she's on the bridge, and she is like, Yorda, come back now. And she's like, but I just want to go. And her mom's like, you don't understand. If you don't come back now, I'm going to collapse the bridge and literally kill everybody that's on the bridge.
It's so fucked up.
It is so fucked up. It is monumentally fucked up. So Yorda comes back and her handmaiden is taken away and the guard is taken away. And Yorda basically has to just sit in her room stewing, and she doesn't know what's going to happen to her. Like she's going to get talking to by her mom or whatever.
Right. This is the thing. You get a foreboding feeling, but it isn't much worse than like your standard, oh, my mom's going to be mad at me kind of thing. It doesn't, It certainly doesn't feel like there's a ton of gravity behind it. You know what I mean?
Right. Until the chief handmaiden arrives to take Yorda. So we're in 3.4. The chief handmaiden is like, all right, get dressed. We got to go.
Yeah.
And Yorda's like, well, where are you taking me? And we get a little background as they're approaching about the graveyard. There's like a graveyard set behind the castle where it's like, family members, but also people who worked at that castle their entire lives and were really, important and integral to the running of the castle would get the honors of being buried there.
Yeah.
So Yorda is like trying to poke the handmaiden for like, hey, so what's going on? What do you know? What's going to happen? Anything? And the handmaiden doesn't give an inch. No. And the handmaiden is like, all right, drops her off like outside of like this walkway area, and she's like, all right, go ahead, go to your mother. She's in the graveyard, which is spooky and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to say.
and the handmaiden and Yorda's like, well, I don't like walking in the dark. Can you accompany me? And the handmaiden just repeats the same thing over again and will not like budge or at all. Which leaves it. There is a lot of hints, and it happens a bunch in the upcoming segments where like she thinks about the handmaiden as someone who probably knows more than she ever lets on.
Yeah.
The chief handmaid. So Yorda goes and finds her mother, and her mother does the basically the Legend of Zelda trick, and she pushes one of the tombstones back. She says a prayer, and one of the tombstones kind of like slides back, revealing a set of stairs. Exactly. Yeah. The real ones know what I'm talking about.
The old gamers out there, you know what I mean.
You know what I mean.
Hey, put on gamers. That power bracelet, bitch.
Hey, gamers, you know what I mean, right?
Gamers trademark.
Gamers, parentheses, derogatory.
It always has been, and it always will be.
So, Yorda's not happy about any of this. She's like, this is weird. Yeah. And her mother just like goes down the staircase that's revealed, and Yorda starts following her, and then the gravestone closes the staircase back up, and Yorda tries to like leave, but she can't. And she turns around again, and she sees that the stairs, they're not like normal. It's like she calls it like a ribbon of white stairs going all the way down. And the queen says something interesting where it's like, you're in no danger here. This is all just, is it an illusion, or is it just like,
how does she put it?
She puts it a very specific way where it's like, even if you fall, you're not going to get hurt, which makes me think that she's like making, it's like just like a storage closet, and she's making an illusion to make it seem like it's bigger on the inside.
Right. Yeah.
So Yorda continues down the stairs and kind of like ends up in this, I guess it would be appropriate to call it a showroom, because it's filled with statues, and these are probably the most detailed statues anyone has ever carved of anybody. You know, they look pristine. They're perfect, right? And so she starts like walking around looking at the details in the statues, and the mother's like, the mother's monologuing the entire time, and
which only good people do, right?
Only good people monologue.
Only good people monologue from spooky statues.
Hold on.
Oh, it's time for the ASMR segment of the show. What do we got?
We are drinking Trader Joe's sparkling blueberry lemonade water.
Ooh, that sounds good.
This is from Trader Joe's.
I'm enjoying a little bit of water that I took out of my refrigerator.
And the water has a sticker on it that says, "Be soft but ready." And it's a little kitten holding a gun.
It's a kitten with a gun.
It's a kitten with a gun.
It's basically Ripley.
This ASMR segment has been brought to you by loud noises. Yorda finds her handmaiden down there.
Yeah. I wonder, is she hanging out? She's having a scotch or something like that?
Yeah, they're just hanging out.
Yeah, no, everything's fine then.
Scotch, no, but they are on the rocks.
Oh, it just gets better. Just like scotch, better with age, bitch.
No, the mom had turned them into statues. She used her super magic ghoul power and while she's like monologuing, explaining this, Yorda just passes the fuck out.
Yeah,
she's just like,
she waifs all over this bitch. She just
She's like, the queen is like, you see, blah, blah, and you're like, Yorda falls. Yorda's down,
and it cuts to the queen, and she's got like a stack of like 9 index cards with her whole monologue written out. She's like, well, this was just a complete waste of time, wasn't it? All right, thanks, Yorda. You got an 8 in Constitution. What the fuck?
Just failing Constitution rolls all the time.
This was a really kick-ass speech. Now I got to give it to the statues again.
So in 3.5, basically the queen finishes her speech. Yorda wakes up in her bedroom, and her mom is sitting next to her, and it gets really hot and heavy on the world building and the background building in this segment. I'm not necessarily going to repeat all of it, but to sum it up, let's sum up what the sitch is with Yorda's mom. Yeah. She is a being of pure evil, who was born during an eclipse. And she bargained with the dark creator, the dark god, the god of darkness, for her powers, which makes her a warlock, correct?
Yes. Yeah. She's got a patron.
She's got a patron. And basically her job is she has enough power to end the world. She doesn't yet because it's not the time. There's like a specific time she is waiting for. I think this has something to do. And one of the things I forgot to mention earlier is that when she was ragdolling Iko around the courtyard, the queen kept saying to Yorda that, like, you are me, I am you, you are my vessel, which makes me think like the queen is going to steal Yorda's body at some point.
Right.
When the time is right to have like a fresh set of, meat skin.
Yeah. It feels like the relationship is much more extra life than mother-daughter.
Yes. Yeah. She's just keeping Yorda around just to slide into that skin suit when she's ready.
Which would be pretty cool, actually, if you could do that. That would be pretty neat.
It's pretty metal,
Yeah. You're just having kids
metal.
And you just keep them in the basement. And, every now and then you respawn.
Sure.
I guess that's what you could call. I mean, spawn, like having children.
Yeah.
Kevin.
There it is. Respawn.
There it is.
Perfect.
Nailed it.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Thanks, man.
That's. I'll let Emily know.
Please. She needs to know.
She needs to know.
She needs for so many reasons.
For so many reasons, she should know. So her end game is to destroy the world and let the dark creator, the dark god, recreate the world in his image, as opposed to the light god, because the dark god is better. Yeah. And he looks better on the side of Vans.
because good is dumb.
Because good is dumb. Basically her motivation.
Yeah, pretty much.
So she has absolute power, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, clearly.
Yeah.
She talks a lot about how, like, there's, the neighboring countries, never really, she one time nuked an entire barbarian group just because, they were getting a little too close. So I think, she's bad, and we shouldn't really worry too much morally about the queen.
No.
Like how we interact with the queen. She's
No, probably not.
She is. And you know what? I don't mind the occasional villain who is not morally gray.
Yeah, no, we have gotten into, like, don't get me wrong, fleshed out characters, always a good thing. But we are getting to a point where you're just not allowed to have a bad guy for bad guy's sake. Like that's why I always will appreciate things like the recent remake of It. It's like, what is Pennywise the dancing clown? He is a embodiment of pure evil. The end.
Right.
That's it.
He was.
I mean, they don't pay any attention to the weird looking guy behind the curtain trying to tell you about turtles and space entities. Don't. It's just he's back. He's just evil clown. Evil clown.
He's an evil clown.
Evil clown.
Stephen
Christ.
King, shut up. Shut up, Stephen.
Shut up, Stephen. It's extra ironic when you consider there in the book of It, there's an entire section based on the character who's a writer, and he goes off on tangents about being in creative writing classes in college and how everything has to mean something else, and he wishes he was just allowed to tell a good story. And you're like, I sympathize with this. Please just do that instead of turning this whole thing into a mythos.
I've never actually read It. That actually happens in the book.
Absolutely, it does. Yes.
Okay.
I know.
I am a big Stephen King defender and appreciator.
Sure. Oh yeah.
But also the man has no ability to pump the brakes.
No. Even we thought it was all that blow he was doing in the 80s, and look, that helped. But no, he's clean and sober now, and he's still that motherfucker. Like, that's still him.
The blow just made him write more books.
Yeah, that's it.
It didn't change the content of the books.
It accelerated the rate at which he could write the books. It didn't shift the books at all, not in the slightest. So,
not in the slightest.
Yeah.
By the way, now that we're talking, we're slightly off topic. I want to
thank God.
There was a
thank God.
Thank God. You thought we were going to talk about a book this entire episode?
That.
I saw randomly. I had a recommendation from Brandon Sanderson's channel of him saying, and it's from like 9 months ago or whatever, and it's like him saying, "I'm sorry, I've been lying to you" is the title of it.
Okay.
And I was like, fine, clickbait, you win. So I
never played Infinity Blade. God damn it, Sanderson.
And I watch him, and he's sitting there at the table, and he's like, the pandemic's affected us all very differently. And he's like doing this whole thing as if he's going to build up to an apology. He's like, "I'm sorry, I've been lying to you. I messed up. I said I was going to cut back or whatever." And then suddenly he paused, and he slams a manuscript down onto the table. He's like, "I accidentally wrote another book."
God damn it, man. These motherfuckers make the rest of us look like... I'm spending all of NaNoWriMo just to get like 100-page novella written. And this motherfucker's like, I just shout out a book. It's full of clever twists and turns, and it's going to be a bestseller. It was easy. Why doesn't everyone do this? It's like, I'm going to kill myself. I swear to God.
Hey, you've had like a bunch of books published this year.
I've had a bunch of stories published or bought this year, which is great.
I mean, great. They're going to be in books.
Yes,
some of them.
That is true. I'm just saying. I'm thrilled, and I know how lucky I am. But some people, some writers, it's like sitting down to just, like they have an extra long.
Sitting down on the toilet after a bowl of Fiber One.
Yeah, man.
And it just shoots out their ass like a shotgun blast.
Right. I'm going to call Comcast. I'm going to be on hold for about half an hour. Think I'll write a book. And it's so frustrating. Just the Comcast book. Great. Good. I guess I'll read it.
The Book of Comcast.
Yeah.
the Sword of Castcom.
Yeah, Castcom. There. No one will catch me. Good.
Yes.
Better buy the trademark just in case.
So 3.6. Yorda is walking around the castle, and she goes to visit the Tower of Wind. And she's just, thinking about this random building that's in the back of the castle and how her mother doesn't like it. And she continues, she starts walking back across the bridge from the tower, and she sees a man. And she's a little bit worried. It's this man in a black cloak. And he's walking towards her, and they finally meet. And wouldn't you know it, it's the man that we were described earlier as the statue.
Yes.
And his name is Ozuma. Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Oh, he has horns on his helmet." And then he takes his helmet off, and she's like, "Oh, he has horns."
He just has horns. The end.
And he talks about to her about how, it's the horns are what we have. There's a bunch of people with horns back where I'm from. I'm from, the East, and my people are itinerant, and we just go out in the world and we try to do good. So then they're kind of interrupted because she thinks she sees something moving around the tower. And they're like, "Okay, well, we're gonna call it quits for now, and we'll let's meet tomorrow." Yeah, let's meet tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that night, Yorda at the banquet is basically just trying to listen, and she finds out that Ozuma had won his match that day, and he's going on to the 4th round the following day. So the following day, we get a little bit of backstory about how she never goes to the tournament since it was 3 years prior. She saw a guy get like absolutely eviscerated at the tournament. And ever since then, she was like, nope, not going to do it.
Not my cup of tea. Thanks.
Not my cup of tea. But now she wants to go see Ozuma fight. And I'm not 100% clear on the relationship between the two of them. I don't know how old Ozuma is supposed to be.
Yeah.
She said she says she reminds her of her father.
Yeah, they kind of say, don't they imply that he's like 40 or something like that, like a veteran?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, so he's older. And I definitely get. I never got. I was very nervous when they started talking about it.
Yeah, no, me too. I was like, I don't know where this is going.
Yeah, and so far at least, there's no like Robin the Cradle
like
vibes.
Father. It's like more of a father figure.
It really does feel that way, and they do enough comparison of him to her dad that you feel like this is probably how it's going to stay.
Yeah, it's probably fine. It's probably fine.
Yeah, but yeah, she is worried about him though, because like I guess that like the idea is that if whoever wins this big tournament is going to be turned into stone by her mom.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes, and I skipped a part. I was reading my notes wrong. The next day, she meets Ozuma again at the on the bridge, and they do a whole breakdown of like basically he reveals to her that the entire like everyone knows about her mom. You know, it's not a super well kept secret. Like,
right.
It's not everyone knows, but enough people know that something's up with her and the tournament. And now that Yorda knows the truth, her eye is open or something like that. So she's going to start to see weird stuff. And that explains why when they were at the Tower of Wind, she thought she saw something moving in the tower.
Yeah.
And this time when they look at the tower, there's like, oh, there's all these shades like looking out the windows and stuff like that. These dark shadows. Garth Marenghi. Is it Dark Shadows or was that the old soap?
Dark Shadows is the old soap, right?
Got it. So yeah. Anyway, they're looking at the tower. They see the shades moving around, and he gives this whole big expo dump about the Holy Zagran Soul Empire, which is a neighboring country, which is basically like. I would not be a fan of this country otherwise.
No.
it's like a religious religious type of place where the king declared himself the priest king of the Holy Empire.
Yeah.
And he's very big on the light god and all that stuff. But Ozuma is working for him as kind of like an agent to go out and figure out what's going on. Why there's a dark, sinister person out there. And one of the maneuvers that the king of the empire did was he sent out an invitation to all the other kings in the area, including her mother, like, hey, I think there is an agent of the dark god, working. Like, let's all get together and figure that out. And like her mother was the only one to like not respond.
Right. Yeah. Which is, as you know, a very innocent thing to do.
The other thing is like, I think it's hilarious that the way this is written, because Ozuma is like, listen, these guys people are always winning the tournament and then disappearing, which is a callback to earlier in the chapter when Yorda goes to her mom, like, doesn't it get suspicious that the people who win the tournament are always disappearing? Right. And her mom is like so arrogant about it. She's like, no, these people probably don't have families. No one cares about them. Like, cut forward to Ozuma later being like, no, people noticed.
Yeah. I made the comparison before, but like it's a very North Korea kind of thing. Like it's this isolationist, like, and she starts and Yorda starts being like, oh my God, like everyone seems happy here though, but like, is he right? Are we the assholes? Like she has a real "are we the baddies" moment. Like,
Exactly.
It was, yeah, and Azuma's like, yeah, everyone knows your mom's basically evil. Like we all know. Like she keeps firing missiles over the Pacific, and like we all know what she's doing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where that conversation wraps up. But
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious that it's that the evil villain is who is super powerful, but also she's not super bright in terms of like strategy. Like
I love
what she's like way too obvious in all the shit she does.
I love having a villain who is scary and a genuine threat, but is also at the same time you're like, oh, you're not really all that bright. Like I can see that you will eventually get taken down by a couple of fucking teenagers. That's probably what's
exactly. You're
gonna
a couple teenagers are gonna Scooby-Doo your ass. So
right.
So now Yorda goes and she attends the tournament because she wants to see Azuma. Is it Azuma?
I think it's Azuma. Yeah.
Yes, Azuma. I was like questioning my handwriting for a second. She wants to see Azuma fight. You know, she wants to make sure that he's fighting, he's winning, and all that stuff. And he goes in and is going to fight a man named Jadam, who is terrifying. He is a big, burly, muscular man with a gigantic axe.
My favorite.
The minister leans over and tells Yorda, like, yes, last year he cut off two of a man's arms.
Right? Yeah. Because the only way that the fight ends is
somebody yielding.
If someone yields, and the guy wouldn't let go of his spear, so he cut his arms off. Isn't that hilarious? Like, yes.
It's great.
That's great. It's fucking awesome. Cool.
It's great. But Azuma is really good. And he is able to. It's a really good fight sequence. Mm-hmm. Just in case you were wondering, our author is very good at writing literally every type of interaction.
It's a really good fight scene. It doesn't go on for too long. It's good action. Holy shit. Like,
yeah.
It's
at one fantastic point, so the guy who is basically kind of like a barbarian build is wearing a circlet, right? He's wearing a circlet instead of a helmet. And Azuma just like brings his sword down on the guy's head at one point, and the circlet stops it, but like the sword like cuts into his forehead, like head and forehead a little bit, and there's like blood like trickling down. And it was like that is such a like spine-tingling detail.
It's a great detail. Yeah. And she describes how, like, you know, it gets into his right eye, so he's squinting his right eye, and it just simple little details. It's a totally great scene. It's a great fight scene.
So Azuma wins. He wins the fight. The guy eventually yields. Later that night, Yorda is unable to sleep. She's fidgety from the day's events, and she gets full on visited by the ghost of her father. Visits her. The ghost of her dad basically confirms everything. Like, oh yeah, I was trying to work to stop your mother. You know, please let's not linger too long here, but I am trapped in the Tower of Winds that you visited. Like my soul is trapped, is bound to the castle.
Yeah.
But now that you know the truth and your eye has been opened, you can see me. You're going to start to be able to see the weird stuff that happens at the castle. So I thought that was like an interesting little touch that
Absolutely.
her dad has. He's like, no, I've always been here. Like I've always been with you. You just have not been able to see me until now. And I was like, that's neat. You know,
it is. It's really sad and it's terrific. It's terrific.
Yeah. It's so in the next section, our last section for the evening, she goes to the library and she wants to find more information about her dad that she doesn't know because she really didn't have a lot of time with his ghost the previous evening. So she goes to the library. It's for a meeting with the Master Sahul, the guy who is responsible for teaching her and all that stuff. And she's like, I want to learn more about my father. Like, what was his deal? You know, he was young when I died. And Sahul's like, oh, well, you know, the books haven't been written yet about your father's reign. Blah blah blah.
In fact, we're like behind.
We're like a king behind. Like we're gonna be done. This year, we're going to be done the previous king's
the
biography.
King before your dad, and then we'll get started on your dad.
We're going to get it started on your dad, but you know, if you want to read that, we got that. We're going to have that at the end of the year if you're interested. And we have these other books if you want to read them.
Click here to pre-order.
If you want to pre-order, we guarantee day
of delivery. It'll be great.
Day of delivery. You know, it's a really good deal.
Yeah. You get a signed book plate.
You get
along with it. It's great.
You get a signed book plate. Sometimes it's on a loose leaf paper and it slides out. So just be careful. Just
make sure you don't throw the envelope away. It might be in there.
It might have been stuck in there. You know,
in there. So I love this because she basically says like, I want to write about my dad, and he goes into all of this like
he's like, no, there's all these other books.
You don't have to do that. All this other, and she was like, no, I just want to like write about how I remember him. Like she's basically saying like I want to write memoirs of my father.
I want to write a memoir of my dad, and he's like, oh well, you know, we have books on the reign of kings, but it doesn't have him in it yet. And
it's so funny. Like it's such a smart guy thing where like she's like, yeah, I just want to write this thing, you know, and he like takes it way too far, and he's like, well, we can get this research and blah, blah, blah. It's like missing the mark entirely, and she's like, no, I just wanted to write about my dad, man. Like it's just. He's like, well, we got to find you an agent. No, never mind.
He's like, all right, well, I want you to write a 1-page synopsis.
Right.
Can you write a treatment for me?
Yeah, get me the pitch. And,
get me the pitch, and we'll take it from there. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I'll call them. I got some friends at Netflix.
Right.
I can get you in the door at Netflix if you want to do an animated series about your dad as a kid.
Yeah. We're gonna get Timothy Oliphant to voice your dad.
And you know what they say about Timothy Oliphant? He's Oliphantastic.
I'm just so tired.
So she's like pressing Sahul for information, and then she's like, I don't even know how he died. And Sahul's like, no.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like he's been like so subservient and kind of lapdoggish to her that she's like, well, how did he die? I don't even know what he died of. And he's like, shut the fuck up. Like he
loses his mind.
We don't ask about how fucking fathers die in this country.
We bury that trauma.
Right.
You put it into your heart so you die of heart disease later.
Right. The same way that he died of heart disease because of his father. Oh, I've said too much.
I've said too much.
God damn it.
I've said too much. Generational trauma. Yeah. No, we got to preserve it here. We used to be a proper country.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when men were men.
So he's like, you're a princess and you're not supposed to be touched by death. You're not supposed to be. And she's like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah. You can just. She's just so over it. Awesome,
she's so
fine.
over it.
Shut up. All right.
She ends up leaving and then walking through another part of the library, and she finds another maester teacher, like the librarian dude, because she comes by a bunch of these locked boxes and she sees a looking glass in a container. And she's like, "Oh, what's that looking glass?" And the guy's like, "Oh, it's broken. It's broken. We can't use it.
Spyglass.
It's fine. But it's broken." And she's like thinking to herself, "Is like, is it broken or is it just because everybody's enchanted and nobody wants to leave the country?"
Right.
And he's like, "Yeah, broken. We keep it because we want to study it." And she's like, "Could I study it?" And he's like, "Do you have a library card?" And she's like, "Yes."
Yeah.
And go down to your local library, kids. Sometimes they have a spyglass.
Sometimes they'll have movies.
Sometimes they'll have movies.
It's fun.
On a VHS.
Yeah.
You ever want to watch Dune? Speed 2?
Not even the good one?
They're on a boat.
Sandra Bullock's still in it. She can still use the money at that time.
Yeah. Keanu said no. He had a hard pass on that one.
He moved on with his life, like everyone should have.
Yeah, 90s were not great for sequels.
No, man, no.
Anyway, the librarian's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So he gives her the spyglass, and she takes it, hides it in her dress, and she takes it back to her room, where she has 3 windows, north. It's like north, east, and west, or something like that.
Yeah. So
she looks out one of the windows towards the ocean, and she sees that there was a boat, like a merchant ship, just kind of half sunk and turned to stone. And she could see like the sail peeking up out of the water, and she could see the people on the deck. Of like they had been like worn away and all that stuff.
It's such a horrifying detail.
It's a horrifying little detail. And then she's like,
they've been there a long time.
They've been there a long time. And then she goes and she looks out another window to a field and like, oh, there is like an army's worth of people, statues. And they've been there even longer.
Yeah. There's no details on them. They're just like, worn out.
They're just the general shape of people. There's no face or anything like that. Nature
They're just basically silhouettes.
So yeah, it's not good. No. The enchantment has been broken. So basically the enchantment has been broken on Yorda. That's why she's allowed to use.
She's red pilled as fuck. And,
yeah, she's based.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's some little fucked up moments, and that's where we're leaving it for tonight. But yeah, that's the thing is like I understand where you're coming from, where it's like it kind of halts the momentum of the current storyline because we had not up until this point changed time periods. Everything was kind of forward looking. But at the same time, I really like Yorda getting some action, like
without question.
Because
that's the thing.
in the game, she's just like the princess that you save, and she's led around by her hand, basically.
Right, and that's the thing. I really appreciate not just the effort of doing that, but the writing. Like, God, this woman can write. The characters are very real and very fleshed out. The situations are fun. The fights are cool. It's great. I just feel like instead of getting like this 150-page chapter all to itself, right in the middle of all of it, I feel like we should have zippered this. Mm-hmm. Like we should have had like, some eco moments and then some flashback moments and let it unwind itself, so that not everything gets
it was not like just one big old chunk of here's a whole hunk of beef.
Right. It's like the Game of Thrones books where like suddenly like we're in Westeros, and all of a sudden like one of the books starts like, oh, it's all over there in this new place. It might as we got a couple of the same characters, but it's like all new shit, and it just throws you a lot.
Like, oh yeah, Westeros shit, and be like, fucking Essos chapter.
Right, exactly, and that's just it. It's really good. The momentum kind of got fucked with a little there, and I find that a little disappointing. But it doesn't stop it from being still a damn fine book so far.
Yeah.
I'm really, really curious about the final third here. I'm still very interested.
Here's the wild thing is that even at this book's weakest, or maybe not weakest is but even this book's missteps are better than a lot of the other books that we've read.
Yes. And I think it's because we're not objecting to the content.
Right.
It's just it's a pacing issue. That's all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She hasn't put anything in here, and I did watch. I realized I was like, I should probably at very least watch a playthrough of Eco, and I've watched most of one, and despite the fact that, as she points out in the beginning, this is a very different kind of experience, obviously. At no point do I think that she is. Do I suspect that this was just a book she was going to write anyway, and she just slapped some specific things? No, it seems tailored to this world. She actually is trying to expand on a pre-existing piece.
It is very grounded in the game's feel. The tone and feeling of the game.
Even when, as you point out, like Eco, very much like Shadow of the Colossus, which I did play and love. They're very lonely games,
right?
And even when we have this whole section that suddenly, boom, it's kind of like that scene in the Addams Family, in the first Addams Family movie, where they're like in the ballroom where they're going to have this party.
Yes.
And they pull the curtains back and suddenly, boom, you're in the party. It was very much like that.
It was like that, yes.
And it's a shock to the system, but it doesn't feel less like Eco.
No,
in terms of the world. You're like, oh, this is different, but it still feels appropriate.
If chapter 3 is the pullback of the curtain for the ball in Addams Family 1, is the fight between Ozuma and Jadam. Is that the babushka?
The mamushka. Yeah.
Mamushka.
Yes. And the guy getting his head cut open and blood in his eye is specifically when Uncle Fester catches the knife in his mouth.
Exactly. that's how these moments map.
That's very clear.
I'm pretty sure we could map any book to, like, you know what? Fuck the hero's journey.
Yeah, no, man. No.
Joseph Campbell, honestly, piece of shit. Anyway, fuck him.
Addams Family.
The Addams Family journey. That's where it's at right now.
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
It's positive spookiness.
And positive spookiness. We do need more of that.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I think Wednesday is supposed to be coming out soon.
I didn't realize that was going to be a series. I thought it was just a movie.
Yeah, it's a series, which
I'll watch it. I'm intrigued.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? It should be coming out. It'll have been out by now by the time this episode comes out.
Will it be?
I think so. It was like the end of November when it's
end of November. It's supposed to premiere. Okay.
Yeah, should be.
Okay. Well, I think that leads us to a very important question.
Okay, what's that?
What are you playing?
Oh, I am, appropriately enough, I did just finish the Rose's Story DLC.
Good.
For Resident Evil Village. I loved it, and you were right. As in the source material, the spooky haunted house is the scariest goddamn part of it. Yeah. I didn't need mannequins chasing me around.
I did not either.
And yeah, it's like Killer Angel, Doctor Who rules where you have to keep your eye on it, and it has glowing eyes, and it walks like a terrifying cricket given some semblance of bipedal motion. I didn't need that in my life. And yet here I am, having played that and having dealt with that. But it was good. It was really good. And I thought the final fight was pretty cool, and I didn't think it overstayed its welcome. And I even played some of the oh, what is it? What's the fighty mode?
Mercenaries.
Yeah, I which I kind of skipped over.
Yeah, I played
and,
it. I realized going back, I realized I had played it quite a bit with Ethan, because I was like, oh, I have a bunch of like grades already with Ethan and Mercenaries.
Right. No, I play and I might keep playing that. I really enjoyed it.
The DLC, when I remember getting to that segment with the mannequins, and God, when they started like the footsteps
man,
the thump 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 thump. Well, like when they were just like around the corner and they like thump thump thump, and they like peek around the corner, I was like, oh.
It is so upsetting. It is so upsetting. It really is, and it was very solid. And once again, and it's kind of funny because when you because they just like in the original game, they take your guns away. You got no weapons, and just like in the original, when I left and I realized I had guns again, I was almost disappointed. I was like, oh, okay. I guess my favorite kind of horror is that Alien Isolation, Asylum, and not like Asylum, Amnesia.
Yeah, so like the first half of Alien Isolation before you get you get armed to the teeth.
Right. I really enjoy that shit the most. So
because it's like that I love Alien Isolation, but I think it is basically Alien Isolation is two modes. The first half of the game is Alien, and the second half of the game is Aliens. Like,
right, a little bit,
like
a little bit.
You actually end up killing like xenomorphs in the second half of the game.
Right. Man, I love that game.
It's a fucking great game.
We're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about that very soon.
Very soon. I'm excited.
I'm excited about that one too. And you remember last week you were talking about finding a nice, relaxing game.
Yeah,
you can just chill and really absorb and everything like that. I did not find that game, but I did find Against the Storm.
That sounds chill.
It kind of looks like it's going to be chill. It's one of my city builders.
Yeah.
Casey Explosion recommended this one.
Sure.
And it looked right up my alley. And it's a city builder. You're in this world filled with like you've got three races to choose from. You got humans, you got like beavers and lizards, and they're all bipedal and everything like that. And that's the second time I've used that word.
Bipedal.
Bipedal.
Yeah.
But you're building these settlements. You've got the main castle with this mysterious queen there, and you're building settlements in her name. And it's got kind of a roguelike element to it, where you go and you have to fulfill certain missions, and they're randomized as you go along. And so you have to kind of decide what you're going to build and what you're going to do with that settlement based on some randomized events and, that sort of thing. And then when you finish that, you go back and you have to build another settlement at a different place. And after a certain amount of time has ended, the world gets wiped clean, basically. And by building these settlements, you have absorbed certain powers and upgrades and that kind of thing. So it's got kind of a roguelike vibe to it. It's dark. It's got some real darkness to it. The world is constantly raining, and you have to keep this flame alive at all times. And so it's got this kind of bummer aesthetic. But I was playing it on Friday night and having a glass of wine. The soundtrack is very soothing, and it's raining constantly. So it's like this white noise machine. So
did you fall asleep playing?
I was very relaxed and therefore did not do very well because it actually has way more to do. It's way closer to Banished than it is to, say, SimCity or something like that. Because there is you don't have all the time in the world. You have to balance not stretching yourself too thin while also not laying around, because the queen
Sure.
gets impatient with you the longer you go, and if you can't get everything taken care of in a certain amount of time, she'll just pull you back and say you failed, come back and try again.
Right.
And it's very, very interesting, and it's an early access, and I'm crazy impressed with the game they've got right now.
Yeah, it was released November 1st into
Yeah.
early access.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the graphics right now, and what's funny is like what you described as I was like picturing it in my head was totally different, because then when I pulled it up, I was like, oh, it's got these very colorful, chunky,
Yeah.
like World of Warcraft.
Very World of Warcraft. Yes,
graphics.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it is very colorful and bright, and the world's very outlandish and strange and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's not enough that you, for example, you do a lot of exploring and a lot of foraging. You
Right.
can farm, but only in very specific instances. And it's not enough that you go out and you're like, okay, we rustled up some rabbits. No, there are you've got all kinds of strange fauna and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know what the fuck that is, but it's meat. So we'll go ahead and kill a bunch of those and forage for meat. And like, it's very, it's got its own thing. And in video game terms, anything with fantasy, anything that goes beyond the usual elves, dwarves,
Right.
kind of thing, is good in my book. And the world they're building is very cool. Like I've invested like 10 hours into it, and I've only been playing
I
it for a
mean,
couple of days.
I might pick it up if I'll check to see if it seems like it might be a decent enough Steam Deck game if it's working.
I bet it would be good for Steam Deck.
If it's working on the Steam Deck, I'll take a look.
It's very chill, and at times it's very chill.
Sure.
Because you do have to keep an eye on it, but I have found that usually with these games, I turn up the speed quite a bit so we can
let's move it along.
Get it along at a reasonable clip. This game, I actually, not only for my own sake as a beginner, because like most of these kind of strategy games, you're going to have to play and fail several times just to actually
understand what's going on.
Exactly. But just playing it at the normal speed will help you in that sense. But it also actually helps me kind of just soak it up and really enjoy it.
Yeah.
On the same level that I'll enjoy Civ or Banished or something like that. So I highly recommend it. I'm loving it so far. So
that makes sense.
What are you playing there, Kevin?
Well, I finished God of War Ragnarok.
Okay.
Yeah. I have thoughts.
You have thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So the game is, I love the God of War reboot. In 2018 or something like that. So I was pretty reasonably excited for Ragnarok. The one thing I would say is that about the game is that it uses the same camera trick as the first one. So if you played that God of War, like it had it had a single shot. Basically single shot camera that never cuts. Right. Never cuts. It's kind of like there's movies that have done this. They'll do long takes that are like 10 minutes or something where they're with no cuts or whatever. And I appreciate the technical work that goes into it, but I think the game at this point is a little hamstrung by it in terms of some of the storytelling decisions. That being said, the storytelling is by far and away the best part of the game. So I don't find the combat all that intriguing in this game. In 2018, it was fine, and then in this game, it's more of the same, and it doesn't really. There's no real juice to it, I don't feel. Like, I think one of the things is that Kratos is like struggling. You end up struggling a lot with like, enemies that are at your level. It just takes a while to kill them. And I feel like to me in my head, it would feel more like God of War-y if, you know, you're mowing down, it's more volume rather than,
Right.
you know what I mean?
They feel a little, not quite the right term,
Not
but bullet spongy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. And I played on the middle difficulty. There's 5 difficulty options.
Okay.
There's 5 difficulty options and a ton of accessibility options. So that's great. You know,
Okay.
that's a great thing. One of the things, and a lot of people have mentioned this, is that the characters sometimes just need to shut the fuck up.
Okay.
So anytime you come upon a puzzle, your companion at the time, and I'll get God of War Ragnarok spoilers. I'm gonna probably spoil it. Your companion at the time, most of the time, that's Atreus, will start like pointing out things like, oh, you can hit that thing over and knock it down or whatever. And it's almost immediate. Like,
wasn't who was it? One of our friends, one of our Pixeladay was talking about that on Twitter.
Oh yeah. I think she mentioned that. Yeah. Where it's just like, come on, just give me a second.
Let me try.
Let me try to figure out the puzzle. You know, there's a lot of puzzles in the game. But some of them are like, okay, well, your companion started talking immediately. And the other ones are like, they are just frustrating enough where there's these chests that you get your upgrades from, your like health and stuff, health upgrades, where it's like you have to hit the 3 things, hit 3 things and it'll unlock the chest and you can grab the thing. Well, like there will be half of them I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Cause I would find 2 of them and then it would take me like 5 minutes of just like looking around and be like, okay, I'm bored. You know, I'm moving on. I'll deal with the fact that I have a little less health than I could have had, you know?
Right.
So there's that. So yeah, overall opinions, I do not rate the game nearly as high personally as the total view of, you know, like if we're comparing like it's apples and oranges in my opinion, but if we're comparing the 2 games that are vying for game of the year this year, which is going to be between God of War and Elden Ring,
right.
To me, it's like Elden Ring in terms of gameplay. It's just like so much. So it's like, yeah, no sweat. It's Elden Ring. You know what's funny is I died more in God of War Ragnarok because the camera is. Here's the thing: is like in Elden Ring, it gives you have a nice. It's a 3rd-person camera with a good wide shot of what you're doing. In God of War, it's like right up on Kratos's ass.
Oh, yeah,
you know what
like
I mean?
That over the shoulder kind of thing. Yeah,
some of that is mitigated by Mimir, like calling things out. Mimir is on your belt because he's just ahead, saying in his Scottish accent, "Behind you, brother," and like you're like, okay, well, I guess I got to dodge, and like there's audio cues and there's these visual cues of like arrows of where the attacks are coming from. And I've found that to be more frustrating and confusing than any moment of Elden Ring, because in Elden Ring, there would be no UI telling me where the attacks are coming from. I could just figure that out by looking at the screen.
Yeah. You can either give me like all of these signals, audio and visual signals and stuff, or you could just give me a higher, plane of view. Give me a
wider, give me an FOV slider or something.
Right. I can see where that would be frustrating.
So anyway, God of War Ragnarok, I hit credits. Apparently there's more to do after the credits, and then you hit like the true credits or whatever. I don't know if I'll bother doing it.
Okay. Like, hey, I got credits. That's good enough for me.
I was really in. Let's just say I was really in it for like the first 6 hours, and then the last 15 hours, 15 to 20 hours were just like, all right, can we just move it along here?
Right.
Like I was skipping side quests. I was doing all that stuff because I was just kind of like, I just want to know what happens to the characters at this point. I don't really, and the writing and the acting and all that stuff, outstanding. I just wish all of that was paired with something that was just a little bit more fun to play.
Okay. All right.
So that's my God of War Ragnarok take. And if you have a disagreement, you can send it to Kevin is wrong about God of War Ragnarok at idon'tcare.com.
Is it .com? I thought it was .gov. Okay.
Oh, .gov. Sorry.
.gov.
Yes.
.gov. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Send to the right place.
Yeah, got to send to the right place. But you know what? That'll do it for tonight's episode. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. If you can, go ahead and follow us. Twitter is still running. As of right now.
Yeah.
9:44 p.m. on November 20th. As we're recording this episode, it's still running.
Right. If you're listening to this, you're from the future. Tell us how everything went to shit.
So follow us on Twitter at PixelitPod or on Instagram, which will probably stay up.
Yeah, I mean, he did put his hands on that one.
At PixelitPod there as well. Best place to go and get information about stuff that we're doing is the website. Go to pixelitpod.com. From there, you can join our Discord. You can sign up for our newsletter. The newsletter is a great way to just never miss an episode. You can also join our Steam group where we post reviews for all of the Whaddya Playin segments. So go ahead, check it out. Really, the website, the Discord, the newsletter, those are going to be the best ways going forward to really keep in touch. If you want, I have a Mastodon thing, I guess.
I guess I'll look into that.
I guess.
Just to be sure.
So, that's that. Please rate us 5 stars on the podcast platform of your choice. And that'll do it. So have a good night, everybody.
Bye.